With all that green webbing, I think Spidey's getting slimy. Here's your look at the Hasbro Spider-Man Venom vs. Spider-Man. In VenomVersus, the Marvel superheroes take on alien symbiote powers to battle Venom and his horde of venomized villains. This collectible Marvel figure features 9 points of articulation, so kids can easily pose their figure for playtime or display. Judging by the webbing that comes included with the wall crawler, somebody needs to get Spidey certainly a hanky. Before somebody does do that, by the way, and don't feel the need to run away just yet. So let's first, though, take the tape measure and see how tall the new Venom vs. Spider-Man stands. This was actually more, to be honest with you, an impulse item. I was actually at Walmart picking up Jurassic Park toys, some of which we've already had a look at here lately this week. While I was there, though, I was kind of looking down the aisles, just seeing what else they had. I was also at, by the way, a different Walmart than normal, and I noticed that they had a much better toy selection than the dismal Walmart I usually shop at. Sure enough, though, I looked across, and on the shelf was these Venom vs. figures. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'll pick up Spider-Man at the very least. Then when I moved Spider-Man out of the way, I noticed that Venom was behind him. So I picked those both up. Now, we're only going to be looking at Spider-Man also in this review. And the figures are generally quite small. They work out to be about $9.98 figure. I think it was $9 and something cents. I think for under $10, I know, again, it's a very small Spidey, but I think that's still not bad, considering how much articulation this guy actually packs. As for how tall he stands, it's about 3 3/4 of an inch in height. That translates, though, to a Spider-Man that's 9.5 centimeters tall. So if I understand this correctly, in order for Spider-Man and his friends to battle Venom and his venomized villains, they have to adopt the idea of using symbiote weapons. Spider-Man, though, when it comes to his weapon, to be honest with you, it looks just like a big string of snot. I know that's not the grossest thing to really be talking about, but certainly it does. I mean, when I think of Venom, I don't tend to think of green. I think, if anything, they probably could have maybe changed the color to a purple or blue. There is, in fact, actually a couple of figures from this line that actually, in fact, have blue and have purple. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they chose to give Spidey green. The webbing doesn't really do anything at all. It's not a suction cup, so don't try to stick this to something hoping that Spider-Man's going to be able to be hanging down from it. I'm actually kind of surprised, really, that they chose not to give it a suction cup, because I figured that would have been an easier thing for a kid to play with. But what we essentially get is sort of like a snotty umbrella. It does have some decent detailing done to it, though. By the way, they've also sculpted this little piece. It actually kind of looks like it's supposed to be a trigger, like he's got some sort of snot blaster. Gross, so gross. There is, however, though, a clip right here, so you can take yourself your Spider-Man, choose whatever side you, of course, you want to have it on the figure, and you basically just snap it on his arm. Now, he already has the web shooting hand. What? He has articulation in the elbow? Yeah, we'll talk more about that. So because he already has the web shooting hand on this side, I'm going to choose to have it clipped here. Now, I'll tell you right away, though, I don't find these the easiest thing to clip in place. First of all, you got to figure out how far down the arm it goes. It's just the right size that clips around this area of his wrist. You move it further up, though, there's no way it's going to be fitting around his forearm. So I don't even know why I was even trying. But that's basically what it looks like. With at least the posability that he packs, you can get him to stand just barely. I mean, you kind of have to kind of bend his knees back just a bit, but Spidey at least has this would just be a total disappointment and a letdown altogether if you put something like this in Spider-Man's hands and then the figure went and smashed his face on the floor. Let's take the webbing, though, out of his hands. There is, by the way, no other storage space to store this. It's not like, I guess you could clip it on his leg, but then how silly would that then look? It kind of would look like he's carrying around a drink tray. Does that even fit? Yeah. Carrying around a little drink tray, so he could put all his drinks on top of the big snotty tray. Let's remove that right now. We'll just kind of put it off to the side. Getting a closer look at Spider-Man. Fully going into this knowing that the figure wasn't going to be the greatest at $9, I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that this is actually not a bad-looking Spider-Man at all. It's very small, though. I mean, we already kind of know, like 3 3/4 inch, for me at least, growing up in the 80s, 3 3/4 inch was the norm when it came to Star Wars and G.I. Joes. Of course, back in the day, like we also used to get a whole bunch of like Marvel figures that, I mean, this was like my heyday doing YouTube videos, was way back when we were getting like posable Spider-Man figures. Remember, everybody remembers those, and the Iron Man figures? Oh, those were just some of the greatest times. I still remember hunting out, was it the Ironmonger? I was trying to find an Ironmonger. I think I ended up finding one. I know this has nothing at all to do with Spider-Man. Found one, though, and I think I had the wrong leg or the wrong arm. I think I got rid of all of those Iron Man figures. I do like, though, the look of Spider-Man. he doesn't feel so bogged down with unnecessary paint. Some could look at this and say, well, the paint applications are a little bit of a letdown because they have not gone in at all and painted the webbing. The problem with when you take a figure this small and shrink them down this small, then you go in there and paint the webbing. Not only will it increase the cost of producing the figure because you're going to have to pay for the paint applications, but then I think with a smaller portrait like this, the webbing would just look like a mess. I would rather, though, a Spider-Man being this size look cleaner than just put black lines all over it because, again, like the figure's way too small to pull that off. He's got the larger eyes. I think those are painted well for what they are. He's got, of course, the spider symbol there on the front. The spider symbol doesn't feel sculpted, so I would imagine they probably would have just printed this in place. But maybe had done that also so that they could use this body again for another figure. One side, though, has a gripping hand. So to go back to this, I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons why they gave him this. Does it really fit? Not really. I thought, okay, maybe there's a little lip of plastic here. You could fit that in between his hand. I guess you could somewhat do it. I don't think that's the reason why it's there. Yeah, Spider-Man has only just a gripping hand on one side, the web shooting hand on the other. And again, with the amount of posability this guy's managing to pull off, there's nothing suckier though when you get a Spidey where his hand is like this and you can't turn it, and it always just looks like it's in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, like overall the figure looks pretty good. I mean, like the webbing down below here for his feet. The feet don't seem like they're a separate piece at all, so they probably would have gone and painted. Although, again, like looking at it, the plastic seems to match pretty good. Maybe this is a separate piece. I can't turn it, and maybe turning it probably would have been a bad idea anyways. The only thing that does sort of feel like it's not painted all that well is maybe the back symbol. The symbol is really dark. I mean, probably would be hard to pull off a color matching that of the molded red plastic. I think they've done, for the most part, still a pretty good job for a Spidey of this cost and this size. Now, for a figure, though, of this size, you probably would look at something like this and just make the assumption that the figure's going to have a head swivel, right? 5 points of articulation, arm swivel back and forth, and all you'd really be able to do is move the legs back and forth. Well, I'm here right now to break that mythos, break the idea that this figure has to have limited levels of articulation, and happy to report, though, the figure has a lot more than you would think he has. Well, if you've already seen the beginning of this review, I already told you how many points of articulation this guy possesses, but let's run through that now. Spider-Man's head is going to be on a ball joint, so already right out the gate, it's not just a peg joint, it's not just the figure's head is sitting on a peg and that's all you can really do. You can, in fact, move Spider-Man's head up and down. Not a lot, though, but enough that it counts. Again, the head does do that. The arms, again, surprising to see that not only do they rotate like you would traditionally think, but for a figure of this size, he can actually pull out a T-pose and get his arms at 90 degrees. He does have, unfortunately, though, red pegs, red hinges on the inside of his arms. I don't really know why, though, because everything else on the figure is mostly blue. I mean, yeah, they probably would have, again, molded all this, but the hinge joint, I would imagine they would have not, because that would basically be, it's pinless, right? So that would have probably been fitting over top of the hinge. Why wouldn't they have just done the hinge in blue plastic instead of red? It's the only thing that kind of is a bit of an eyesore. Not that I really want to be getting this close to Spider-Man's armpits. Could you imagine how smelly it would be underneath that suit? Whew. But yeah, the arms do hinge out. Again, you got your 90 degree angle bend. The figure does also have a bend in his elbow. In addition to that, you can also take the arms and rotate them all the way around. The only thing he doesn't have, though, is swiveling hands. Now, I feel like that's a bit of articulation that the figure doesn't necessarily need. The hands, by the way, and the plastic overall is a bit gummy. I mean, you can really see how much movement I can get out of the arms. I guess that's not a bad thing. One thing, though, too, is that the figure does have leg splits. Now, I worry a little bit about the longevity of these pegs. The pegs are very narrow, as you probably can see as I get so close to the camera with Spider-Man's crotch. Oh, man. Talking about armpits. Whew. Anyways, though, the hinge joint, you can see how very narrow that post would be. I don't know, like, if a kid's playing rough with Spider-Man, at least for a $9 figure, you probably could give this to a kid and not feel so disappointed if he breaks. But I just think, though, like, moving his legs around, even though he can pull off a very good Van Damme, I don't know if that plastic's going to last over time, especially with a rough kid. Legs move forward and back. They don't move back all the way just because of Spidey's butt. That's as far back as it goes. The figure does have a knee bend, and with that knee bend also goes a lower rotation in his lower leg. I'm happy. I'm actually kind of really surprised. Going really into this, only just expecting this guy to be an impulse item. One that, you know, as you walk down a toy aisle, you see something that you were kind of already looking at. Then you start to kind of think in your head, okay, well, I have a little bit left of money. No, I mean, I could get the groceries, I could get the necessities, I could get the things I really need to take home with me. But let's instead just kind of look around. I've got like I think I had like $15 left to kind of spend on myself. And as I kind of like looked around, this kind of caught my eye. Out of just thinking it was going to be a very limited articulation Spider-Man with not really much at all you could do with the arms nor with the legs, I thought, still, you know what? I'll pick it up. Honestly, though, I looked at Spider-Man. I had him in my hand. I mean, obviously not loose like this. That would make me a thief. I had him in my hand, and I thought, do I really necessarily need the Spider-Man? And then when I moved the Spider-Man out, I realized Venom was behind it. And Venom really was the thing that kind of then sold me getting the Spider-Man. If it wasn't for the Venom, maybe I might have passed on the Spider-Man, but I'm glad, though, that I didn't. Not only does he look the part of Spider-Man, but he's decently posed as well. I mean, really, it's been a while since I've gotten a figure of this size and of this price. I just assumed it was going to be, you know, a 5-point articulated Spider-Man with some silly snot webbing that came included with it. But no, again, I was very surprised, so much to the point where I'm almost even tempted to go back and pick up any more of the Spider-Man VenomVersus figures outside of the Spidey and the Venom I've already picked up. Here it was going on so much about Spidey's posability. And the one thing I forgot to mention, though, is that the VenomVersus figures all have pegals on the bottoms of their feet. In other words, while though Hasbro didn't include one with their figures, you can certainly, though, use a generic black display stand by an unknown company. We all know the company that's making those circular black stands. You can use that, though, for Spider-Man and get him some interesting poses. It's not going to be believable, though, the figure's swinging from rooftops, but it does a little bit more interesting things than just the figure standing vanilla. Now, again, I've got the webbing attached onto his hand. We assume, though, that this is all, quote, venomized weapons. There is actually a couple of figures, though, advertised in this wave. A couple I still would like to get my hands on. There is a symbiote suit Spider-Man. What are the chances I'm going to come across that? There is also the Iron Spider, and there's Spider-Gwen. Miles Morales is also in there as well. But if I try to find any others from this line, I would really like to get my hands on that symbiote Spider-Man. That would be definitely one I'd like to get. What do you guys, though, think of the VenomVersus figures? I know initially, like, looking at these, you probably just thought to yourself, no, these are for kids, man. Why'd you even waste the money on that? Hopefully, though, this video has swayed you now in the direction of thinking, my God, man, I got to get my hands on a couple of these figures because this guy has done the video so well for them. Thank you. As mentioned, though, we are going to be looking at Venom. Venom was also the same figure that I found at that Walmart. I think now I'm going to have to start shopping at that Walmart. It was completely out of my way, but I think it's well worth the drive, at least if it means that they have a better stock of toys than the current Walmart I'm going to now. If you guys did enjoy this video now, do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? Yeah, I hope so. We are, again, wrapping up things right now for the wall crawler. Right around the corner, though, as Spider-Man probably would have already sensed that, we are also going to be looking at the big behemoth known as Venom. Surprisingly enough, though, also the same price. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.